Hello guys, welcome to another Academic Decathlon microeconomics video. Today we're going to be talking about marginal buyers and sellers and surpluses. You might notice I already have a supply and demand graph pre-drawn, and that's going to come into handy a little bit later when we talk about some other concepts. But first, let's talk about marginal buyers. And marginal buyers are buyers that at a certain price are indifferent between buying a good or not. Basically, another way to say it is it's the maximum price you're willing to pay for something. So if I'm willing to pay maximum $100 for a burrito, I know that's a lot for a burrito, but if I'm willing to pay a maximum for $100 for a burrito, then I am a marginal buyer for a burrito at $100. At $100, I'll probably buy it, but I might not. That's just my absolute maximum. At $100.01 though, I would not buy it. At $99.99, I would for sure buy it. And you might notice a break from reality here. Normally people wouldn't care about a penny or so, but in economics you have to assume that people are going to be marginal buyers at a certain price. And this is just a simplification from reality, but if we included the psychology of humans, things would just get completely impossible. So we break it into a simplified model in economics, and that is the marginal buyers. And so if, let's say I'm a marginal buyer for burritos at $100, and I can buy a burrito for $10 in the market, that's the market price, then I am getting something called consumer surplus. And this is, I like to describe it as some theoretical savings that I'm having. So I would spend up to $100 on a burrito, but the burrito is $10. So I'm theoretically saving those $90 that I could have spent if the market price was higher. So I'm receiving $90 worth of consumer surplus. I hope that makes sense. So just for an example, if the market price for burritos is $10, we have me, who's willing to spend $100. I'm a marginal buyer at $100. We have Joe, who will buy it at $50. We have Sam, who will buy it at $10, and then we'll have, I don't know, Mary, who will buy a burrito only if it's $1. So there's individual consumer surplus, and that's just for each individual. For example, mine is $90. Then there's just the market consumer surplus, and that is all the people added together. So since my consumer surplus is $90, I'll just write it down here. Joe's consumer surplus is $40. Because 50 minus 10 is 40. Sam's consumer surplus is 10 minus 10. He has no consumer surplus. And Mary's consumer surplus is negative 9. Wait a second. Negative 9, that doesn't seem right. Well, because Mary is a marginal buyer at $1 and the market price is $10, she does not buy the good at all. She does not buy the burrito. So therefore, she's not counted in any of this. So if you have someone getting negative consumer surplus, that means that you're doing something wrong. Because if someone's marginal price is below the market price, and then they're not counted at all because they don't even buy the good. So what would be the market consumer surplus? It would be 90 plus 40 plus 0. So $130 would be the market consumer surplus in this case. Same thing with supply. It works in reverse for producer surplus. So for example, if a producer is a marginal seller at $10, that means that the minimum that they're willing to sell it at is $10. Then that means that if the market price, for example, is $20, they receive $10 worth of producer surplus. And instead of consumer surplus being the theoretical savings, the producer surplus is the theoretical earnings, because they're earning really $10 more than they'd be comfortable with earning. So same thing, you take the market price minus the marginal price for the producers, and then you go ahead and add them all together and you have the producer surplus. And this is easy when you have like 4 people. But in this case, let's go to a real graph. You might not have 4, and it's a perfectly competitive market. So you're going to have a large number of buyers and sellers, maybe 1 million buyers and 10,000 sellers. So you'll have a lot of fun calculating each one individually. But if you have the curves, the demand and supply curve like this, you can calculate it. So for example, here's the demand curve, and it's really a curve showing each of the marginal buyers. So for example, here, this is a marginal buyer at this price. Let's say this is me with the burrito. This is $100. And this is the market price burrito. This is $10. So this right here, this line represents those $90 a consumer surplus. So what is it? This is, let's say, Joe. He has $50. This is his line. Sam is right here. And then Mary is like down here. So you notice how these lines, if there's another person here and another person here, these lines start to add up to this entire area right here. And this area is called the consumer surplus. So it's the area below the demand curve, but above the equilibrium price. So what area do you think is the producer surplus? If you said the area above the supply curve, but below the equilibrium price, you'd be right. This is the producer surplus. Because if there's a marginal seller at this price, and here's the equilibrium quantity, here's the producer surplus, here's the amount they're theoretically earning, and you have a lot of them, you just fill in this entire thing, and you get the producer surplus. Sorry, there's those hard colors to read, but top is consumer surplus, bottom is producer surplus. And if you add them together, consumer surplus plus producer surplus, that equals total surplus. So the goal of a competitive market is to maximize this total surplus. So just quick review. Below the demand curve, above equilibrium price, that is the consumer surplus. And then above the supply curve, but below equilibrium price, that is producer surplus. Consumer surplus plus producer surplus equals total surplus. I hope everything made sense in this video. Thank you for watching.